Perfect. Thank you all for your patience. I appreciate you all being here. On behalf of the Coalition for Victims of Child Abuse, welcome to our fall virtual symposium, Shifting the Paradigm, Perpetrator Engagement and Responsibility in DV. My name is Melissa Goen, and I'm the project manager for the Coalition. And before we get started and introduce our speaker, I just wanted to say a few thank yous to our advisory committee who helped support in the planning of this event. We want to thank our agencies that are pictured on the right-hand side for their collaboration in planning, branding, promoting, and being co-creators in the partnership with CVCA. Our advisory committee is a small group of AT-SEP recipients who are both first-time agencies and that help us in choosing these topics and welcoming speakers like the one you're about to see today. And I'd like to especially give shout outs to Becky Cannon over at Seneca Family of Agencies, Steve Carroll with the San Diego LGBT Center, Katie Gilbertson with Safe Family Justice Centers, Kazuo Hugh from Lao Family Community Development, Allison Johnson at the Center for Community Solutions, Stephanie Vera at Riverside Area Rape Crisis Center, and Manisha Vora at Communities Overcoming Relationship Abuse, or CORA, for their engagement and participation in our last advisory committee meeting to help really pull today together. So thank you all for your active leadership and engagement in the coalition. Events like this would not be possible without the leadership and direction that you all provide. So thank you so much for being here today and for helping make this event possible. All right, now at this time, I have the pleasure of introducing our symposium speaker, Luck P. Lucky. Luck worked for more than 17 years as a senior protective services worker with Child Welfare Services. Within CWS, Luck specialized in emergency response, domestic violence, safety organized practice, structured decision-making, and cultural responsiveness to all children and families. Specialty assignments have included Drug Endangered Child Program, Liaison for LGBTQ+ children and families, created linkage between CWS and the San Diego Police Domestic Violence Unit to enhance communication and coordination to best serve families affected by intimate partner violence, after hours ER response, and safety organized practice coaching for CWS staff in all programs. From this foundation, Luck contracted with Child Welfare Development Services, UC Davis Northern Training Academy, Bay Area and Central Academy, and partnered with Evident Change, formerly known as Children's Research Center, a division of the National Council on Crime and Delinquency. In conjunction with Evident Change, Luck is trained across the United States and in Canada on the implementation and integration of structured decision-making, safety organized practice, and various domestic violence practice tools to maintain rigor when partnering with families who are victims of IPV. In addition to child welfare work, Luck is a certified domestic violence trainer in the Safe and Together model via the Safe and Together Institute. And Luck is genderqueer, a person on the transgender spectrum who identifies as non-binary. Luck's pronouns are he or she, whatever you see, or they, them, theirs. After years of determination to integrate his and her true gender identity and sexual orientation, Luck transitioned fully into the person, parent, and professional he, she had only once hoped for and at times never thought possible. Luck is devoted to advocating for and supporting LGBTQ+ children, youth, and caregivers. Luck brings her coaching, training, and mentoring skills to child welfare workers, foster parents, the LGBT community, and I'm excited to now say to you all today. So with that, I'll be turning it over to Luck if you'd like to share your slides. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that was really long, and I didn't know it was that long when you were reading it. Thank you so much. Man, I've done a lot. I haven't really heard that read in a while. I got to thank the Coalition for Victims of Child Abuse. This is amazing. All the active leadership here too. I'm so excited to be here. I literally have been dreaming for this moment to meet with community partners and collaborators, in the state of California. I got my California map behind me. And I don't know if you see it, but I'm like keeping track of each county up and down California where I want to invoke change, right? And I want us to all team together. We really need to team together. I need you guys, and I'm so glad I have you. I got you for about an hour and almost 2 hours, right? So today I'm literally gonna just give you a taste of what I've experienced, right? I truly, truly believe that if we can all come together and shift the paradigm. So this is the first tattoo I'm going to give you. I'm giving out tattoos today, by the way. If you've never had one, you don't need to sit down and get poked on with a needle. I'll just give them out today. So the first tattoo is we want to shift the paradigm. Okay. And we're going to shift the paradigm together. Love it. Let me share my screen. I have a short PowerPoint. Hopefully you guys all have the materials. I know Melissa sent them through email. There's a PowerPoint, there's a short little participant guide with some like key tools, right, that we're gonna discuss today. In my experience, I have worked directly with, I still consider myself a practitioner today. My wife works in child welfare and she's like, "You're not a practitioner anymore." I'm like, "Nah, I am." Making the jump to consultant work, I still feel like I'm practicing every day and learning from you guys. So I intend to learn from you today. And I can only do that if you guys share with me your voice. So I'd like you to not be worried about how many people in the room, and just feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to type in the chat so I can hear your voice. So I did this work 2 different ways, and really as 2 different people, I gotta tell you. So I had to do things the traditional way. This is what I call it. I don't call it harmful and destructive. I call it traditional practice. And then I shifted, I had to unlearn traditional practice, which was very harmful to the families I worked with. And then I had to relearn and shift to what we call the safety organized way of practicing and working with families. Love it. It completely shifted me as a professional and a person. Okay. And so it's a difficult shift. Okay. I'm going to put that out there right away. It's a very slow process, but it's possible. We've been able to shift states, countries, other countries. And that's from law enforcement to service providers, mental health, family justice center, DV advocates, courts, everybody, right? Child welfare can be able to shift together. Now, I might share some things today that might hit some nerves. What I mean by that is when I was in certification training, all the families flashed before my eyes that I worked with, and I started to become shook with emotion. What that means is I really saw them and the harm that I had done. So I got shook with emotion in class and became really tearful. I'm like hiding my tears in class from the other participants, right? And so then after I took the hammer out and beat myself over the head for doing things wrong, I decided, nope, I'm going to come back to California and I'm going to be a hardcore practitioner of this practice. I'm going to try it on. And I geeked out on it. That's what I like to call it, geeked out on it, to the point where I saw better outcomes immediately, right? And so I was able to shift the parent. You might have moments, you guys, where you're like, "Oh my God, I did that yesterday. Oh my God, I said that word last night to my colleague and I didn't know. Oh, I said that to the survivor. I didn't know I was harming the survivor by saying that." That's okay. Second tattoo, ready? This one's a long one. You don't know what you don't know. Okay. So I usually put this one somewhere like real close where I can see it, because you just don't know what you don't know. And that's okay. And so today I'm going to share a little bit. Now, I developed this training series. It's adapted from the Safe and Together model, meaning we took the principles and concepts of that practice and we adapted it and weaved it with structured decision making, a tool child welfare uses in California to help make decisions, and also our practice elements of the core practice model, safety organized practice. We made a series. And so today you're really just getting a touch overview, but this is a series partnering with survivors. It's a series. And then there are a couple classes on perpetrator, engagement, and responsibility. So I wanted to put that out there first, just so that you know if you're interested in adopting the practice for your colleagues and your entities, it is a series and we can work to gear that series to your role and responsibilities. So first, I would like you guys all to type in the chat. If everyone could just type into the chat, like, I'd like to know where you're from, what's your role, and how do you encounter intimate partner violence each day? If you could just type that into everybody so we can kind of see who's in the room, you know. And I do appreciate people with their cameras on. I really like to see you. Hi, Nicole. You're like right in front of me. Marcella. Nice to meet you guys. I see you, Celine. And then I see Deborah. Alex, nice to meet you. You were Celine for a while, by the way, Alex. So you changed your name. I was like, oh, we have another Celine in the room. There's like two or three Celine Fabianos. Awesome. Everyone just type in the chat. Oh, YOLO. Awesome. YWCA. Wonderful. I worked very closely with YWCA in San Diego and also the Family Justice Center, right? I was their liaison. So important. Rape crisis centers in the room. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Lots of therapists in the room. Thank you for being here. Your role is so important. Awesome. Pathways Counseling Center. San Joaquin County Family Justice Center. You rock. Oh, that's Suzanne. I'm alumni, University of Pacific. So I just have to say that, Suzanne. Love it. I worked at the Honor Farm, Suzanne. I worked at the jail. I was a rec coach. I miss Dave Wong's every single day. Suzanne, tell me you're eating Dave Wong's. Oh my gosh. I was a scholarship athlete, so I played basketball there. Yeah, for 5 years. Oh, thank you for being here. We got, oh, Steve Carroll, director, LGBTQ Center. What's up, buddy? I'm sure we've crossed paths before. Oh, thank you for being here, you guys. This is really cool. Can you guys just tell me maybe one thing you hope to take away today? You know, if you were to think of your challenges that you face, because we all face challenges and it's the tough job. We have a tough job. You know, it takes special people. You know, I worked after hours 12 years. I was only hospitalized 3 times. But this job can be very stressful, right? And we have challenges, you know, working with families experiencing intimate partner violence. If you were to think about your challenges and think about what you want to take away today, maybe just one thing I can give in this short window, what would that be? Just feel free to write in the chat or feel free to unmute yourselves. Suzanne, you're my Stockton buddy. You just became my Stockton buddy. Can you tell me one thing you want to take away?
Right now, it feels like people are kind of burnt out on the whole Zoom session. And so we were trying to offer services virtually to meet people's needs. And so we tried to begin live services again. And it's like people kind of got used to being in their house, but they don't want to engage virtually. And so I guess it's getting folks to engage.
Yes, getting folks to engage. I am huge on engagement. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? And there are challenges over Zoom. I get it. Thank you so much. Hey, Stephen, do you have anything? I'm just going to call you out, brother, because, you know, you just, yeah.
No, appreciate it. I think it's really about, just hearing some ideas around or strategies around engaging parents, still seeing a lot of parents who are willing to enroll their child in counseling services, but, aren't willing to engage beyond that. And so always interested in strategies around parent engagement.
Yeah, yeah, they're willing to get their children help, which is a great first step. But am I to that place, right, where I'm willing to step into a place where I need to learn more about myself as a parent, right, and how I contribute, to what my child's experiencing. Yeah, that's a tough place for people to humbly, take that step. Mhm. Any other people have anything they want to share? Just kind of feel free to unmute yourselves.
I can share. I'm a clinical supervisor for trainees, for MFT trainees who we see a lot of survivors of intimate partner violence, and many of those are co-parenting
Mhm.
the person who harmed them.
Yes.
And so how to, just like ideas about how to support them in that while
Yeah.
maintaining safety.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Jenny, because it is really important. We really need to move to more of a place where we start working with families as families, family units. And so there are some small things that we need to shift on that have massive impact on how our families respond or don't respond to us, right? And so they may seem silly and simple, and I'm going to go over a few of them, but they're so important, like where we have to examine ourselves and kind of what we say and how we think, right, about families, particularly around those perpetrating the violence. I really appreciate it. So today we're just going to shift to, I want to talk a lot about working with survivors and understanding how do we partner with survivors to preserve families, instead of just trying to like break everybody up and separate, how do we preserve families, right, safely? Identifying, we really have to identify perpetrator behavior patterns. This is huge. There are behavior patterns that impact children and the survivor and how the household functions, right? So it's kind of like these 3 bucket areas we're going to explore. And if we can really assess that well and what the survivor is already doing to be protective, then we could literally come together to improve our competencies, assessments, and cross collaboration with each other, right? We have to connect all of this. So the engagement over Zoom, I'm hearing the engagement to do services. I'm hearing the engagement, right, to work with families. I feel like safety organized practice and the core practice model integrated for all of California is really how we do that. We're going to talk a little bit today about gender stereotypes and like double standards when it comes to parenting, because it's still very present in our society, right? And it really impacts, right? It becomes this barrier to how we engage not only perpetrators of violence, but survivors, right? So today we're really going to focus on shifting the paradigm from this traditional failure to protect lens. I was in this lens. I had this lens every single day. I was going out in the field, you guys. I was knocking on doors. I was meeting with families at hospitals in the middle of the night. And, I was, in the rain soaked, and I'm assessing a survivor, you guys, from a failure to protect lens, not from a safety organized lens, where I need to focus on who is the source of the harm and what are they doing, right? And so that shift is really powerful if we can move to that place. Safety organized practice, if you guys haven't been exposed to it, I see these as principles. These are my principles. Man, I did this work without these principles for almost 7 years, you guys. And oh my gosh, I cannot believe the harm I was causing, right? And so when I was introduced to the principles, right, and started to practice cultural humility, I started to really partner with families in a trauma-informed lens and be thoughtful about what solution-focused inquiry really means and how do I do that, right? And so the biggest, who can guess which principle here, I have 2 large dogs, by the way, so you might hear them. Which principle do you guys think that I think, they're all important, are the most important principle up here to do when meeting with families experiencing intimate partner violence, particularly survivors, Jenny?
partnership-based collaborative practice.
That's right, Allison. Whoop. If I was with your staff in person, you would be like picking from the candy shack right now. Cause I bring the candy shack with me, by the way, you guys. So if I'm gonna come like train all your staff, I crossed a whole suitcase of chocolate bars in Canada. I did. And I told him there's chocolate in there. And so when he opened, he was like, dang, you're not kidding. He went the little wipey, they do the little wipey. They wiped every single candy bar. It was hilarious. So you get first pick, Allison. So California Integrated Core Practice Model in the context of DV in your packet. Okay, so I'm gonna pause for you to look at your packet because I really want to show you, we really explain and lay things out in your packet on which practice element. So these are the practice elements that child welfare in California, juvenile predation, behavioral health, we should all, right, be using these practice elements when working with families. And Allison, I'm gonna give you another chance. Which one on this screen out of prevention, engagement assessment, planning service, monitoring, and transition do you think is the most important that we have to do first, number one, every single time? And we gotta do it well.
Well, judging from your energy, I want to say engagement.
That's right. Engagement. You get 2 picks now. Now you have 2 candies. Yeah, I'm not even playing. You got 2, right? In your packet, let me show you guys. Packet. Zoom. Is this the packet? Here, it looks like this. If you guys go to page 3, it explains under each practice element what we want to be doing, right? And how it applies in DV context here with this paradigm shift. And so it's a nice read that you guys can kind of read through and take away. So that is there for you. I'm going to jump in to cultural humility because, oh my gosh. Okay, this is going to be Zoom confessions, okay? Look, I train from a place of failure, you guys. So can I get a thumbs up? You can do it with emoji. You could just do it a thumbs up that we're not going to judge Luck for things that Luck shares that they might not be proud of. Okay, in my practice, there's no judgments in this room. Thumbs up. I got to see it. Okay, because I'm going to do some Zoom confessions. Steven, here comes some Zoom confessions, okay? No, it's pretty intense because I got to get painfully aware of my bias, And so can you believe, Steven, for over 7 years, I did this work thinking I had no bias. Not only did I think I had no bias, Steven, it certainly, if it was there, didn't pack the work I did with my families and what I had my families do, right? And so that attitude alone, right, it makes me sick to think about it, right? And so I had, Steven, do you watch Scooby-Doo? Do you have children?
Do I have children? No, but that doesn't necessarily mean I don't watch Scooby-Doo.
Exactly. And that's what that was my next thought. So Scooby-Doo is amazing, right? And so the new Scoop, by the way, is awesome if you guys get the new movie. So I had what's called a Scooby-Doo moment. And that's for me, which is like, oh my gosh, I have bias. Not only do I have bias, you guys, it is impacting everything that I do. Before I even meet somebody else, it centers in my mind. And it's there, and I got to get painfully aware of it. I got to admit it, and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do about it. Not necessarily going to get rid of it, but how am I going to mitigate that barrier? Because if I don't do that first, the work inside me, then I'm certainly not going to be able to get anybody to want to engage with me. So I said the tattoo to remember here is turn up the curiosity dial. Turn it up. Because we have to talk about the families first, about the differences amongst us. Like, I'm really different, right, than Allison and Angelica, and Becky, you're different from Steven, and we're all different. Not only are we all different in our culture, our ethnicity, our race, our gender, we're different. We're different with the power and privilege we hold when someone comes to us for help. I had this badge, you guys, this badge alone that I would approach families with from child welfare is scary. I am scary. I am dangerous, and I'm the bad guy. right? And I have power and privilege in that position. If you're a white man in society, you have even more power and privilege. We have to get honest about how that is terrifying first, right? And so I started changing practice this way, where I would literally ask my families what worries them most about me being here. I would be there at like, midnight, 1 a.m, and everybody's scared. She's scared, I'm scared. Two people are scared. And it's the same way when they come in, Jenny, to you for services, or to you, Stephen, our queer kids, they're just terrified in general of everything and everybody because they've been rejected and persecuted by everybody in their life, right? Has hurt them and pained them and left them. And so you have two scared people. I got to ask what worries them about the differences here, because if I don't discuss it, it's predictable that my power and privilege is going to blind me and it's going to impact engagement. I have to really reassure the families that I'm committed to put bias in check, and that if bias comes up, I'm going to account for the impact it's going to have, right? And if I don't do this first, there is no way anybody's going to want to engage with me. Really powerful stuff. So one of the main things that I had to really focus on first when shifting you guys was, why doesn't she just leave? Hands up if you guys have this, and it's okay, there's no judgment, that you think, why doesn't she just leave, or you ever have in your career. Yeah, it's like I used to think that if she would just leave, right, everything would be okay. There's certain cultures and communities, leaving is just not an option. Divorce isn't an option. We have to turn up the curiosity all around culture. I have to be humble, and I have to ask about, because quite possibly, you guys, staying is safer. Okay. And so I really need to be aware of that bias. That's my bias. Okay, safety organized approach equals better outcomes. So we have the foundation is modeling the characteristics, these values and components and elements we discussed already. These are the tools in the middle box that throughout my series we use. And these tools can be effective for you as therapists too, because I've introduced these tools to some therapists in San Francisco. I work really closely with San Francisco. And they're able to utilize this. You guys probably do motivational interviewing. We call it solution focused question or inquiry. I have some tools I developed behind me, right? That I'm going to introduce to you guys that help us have a balanced rigorous assessment. If we could use these things with fidelity, I'm telling you, we can improve our competencies, collaboration with each other. We can improve our assessments. Folks are going to want to partner and engage, and we can work together more closely. Child welfare, law enforcement, therapists, advocates, everybody needs to be in the room. We have child and family team meetings in child welfare. We need you all there. We can't have families working on 3 different types of goals, right? And doing different safety plans. We got to all work together. We have to be able to share information freely and openly. These are the 3 values, okay? These are important. So I have to think about these values. Every single family I meet with, Jenny, every survivor they meet with, your interns, these are like the 3 values that go with me always. They're like on my shoulder and on my heart that I have to like take with me all day, every day, throughout the life of my time with that family. And the number one is, I see it as the number one goal. Our goal is to try and keep the kids safe with the survivor, you guys. We have to stop ripping them away from the survivor, right? Just because the survivor hasn't done what we think they should do. And so our goal is to really try and do that by engaging, Allison, engaging the survivor to want to partner with us. Allison, I spent so much time trying to be a salesman. Like no one wants to buy the Lucky Kool-Aid. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I try to sell everything to everybody. No, I don't want to convince her to partner with me. I want her, Allison, to want to partner with me, to be like, where's luck? Does that make sense? Like, I don't need to sell it. I have to flip it, right? And I can only do that if I'm there to intervene with the perpetrator. We need to intervene with the perpetrator to reduce danger and risk. One of my students last week said, not luck, We want to eliminate danger and risk. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. It's totally true though. Like we do want to eliminate it, right? But we can only do that if we focus on how the perpetrator's behavior is the source of the harm, right? And so we're gonna have these tools. So let me just tell you real quick. So this is funny. So let me ask you guys, feel free to unmute yourselves. If we were to intervene with the perpetrator to reduce danger and risk, what would you be doing to do that? Now, you do not have to be directly working with the perpetrator to intervene to reduce danger and risk. So let me ask you guys, as therapists, advocates, leaders, directors, managers, supervisors, what would you be doing to intervene with the perpetrator to reduce danger and risk? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
I'd be engaging with probation. If they've been charged and they're sentenced, I'd be engaging with probation to make sure that if there's going to be supervised visitation or whatever, that there's some extra contact prior to, just to make sure that they have the support.
Yeah, absolutely. And they need to know everything about what the perpetrator's behavior patterns are, right? And impact to the kiddos, because if they're having visits, we want to make sure, right, that they're changing their behavior, right? And that they're getting the services through probation. Awesome. What else? There's more here. Please share.
I do want to share. I think it really depends on the situation, like I guess the severity of the case as well, because obviously if there was like extreme violence where the child can be around dad, obviously that's treated a little different, right? But the typical cases that we get at the resource center is mild to moderate, where there is physical hitting, but it doesn't meet the standards to have court involved. So this is something I've always been requesting from our leaders, like, hey, I can treat a victim like the back of my palm, right? I know what to do, I know what to say, but it can get very tricky and dangerous when, the perpetrator is there, because you don't want them to trigger you. I mean, I've been in a situation where I said something and it's like, oh, wow, I'm about to get attacked. But I think really providing them with resources, right? Treating, if they're going to stay together, that's something obviously we can't decide for the client. But if that's something that they want to do, offer services for both of them, right? Treat them like, hey, whatever you guys decide, this is what we have for you. So you guys decide what you guys want to do, right? So treat the perpetrator as part of the family, because when you try to
segregate them or separate them, they're not going to want to do anything, and they're not going to want their spouse to do anything as well, because this is kind of where they're starting to lose that control, right? So I think offering them services definitely goes a long way.
Man, Maricela, you're getting right on, because you get to pick from the candy shack, okay? Because
I was going to say, can I get two?
Because this is why. Because this is why. You can do that by telling her. So here's the tattoo, you guys. Slow down to go fast later. Tattoo it. Look, I have to tell the survivor that's their behavior, not yours. And they're making parenting choices that are harming you, the family, and children. And I'm here to serve the entire family. And I'm going to hold him responsible for his behavior if it's the father. And, right, you're going to find, you're absolutely right, Marcella. Some survivors be like, what do you mean? You mean you're going to make them do stuff too? What do you mean? You're going to go find my partner too? Yeah, I'm going to try over and over, because they're the source of the harm. Right? And so I can't do that though, Marcella, unless I first see the perpetrator as a parent and caregiver that matters. So, because for the longest time, they're not a parent and caregiver that matters to me. And this is another Zoom condition. They're not. They're never going to change, goes through my mind. A perp's a perp's a perp, right? They're just going to deny everything. They don't care. They're not involved. None of that is true. That's me and my reasons for not wanting to meet with him. And usually it's because, Marcella, I'm not equipped to meet with him. I'm really not, because I haven't had the training. Like, everyone's like, I'm scared. Yeah, you might be scared, but you're not equipped. I need advanced training. And when I got it, I'm looking for every perpetrator now, and it is important and is my mission to find them, engage them, be willing to continue to meet with them, to get them to engage, to offer them the services they need, because they're part of the family, whether they sleep there or not, right? So the first thing is intervening. I really have to locate them. And I'm gonna be honest, in child welfare, we do this a lot. Now, I'm not trying to bag on my department. Okay. I love child welfare. I worked them forever, but there were things I did that I'm ashamed, like I'd knock Marcella to go find the perpetrator. He's dead. Come back to my supervisor. Hey, Steven, try to meet him. Don't know where he's at. Can't find him. Don't think he's involved. And then my super would be like, go back and try again the next day. All right. And I'm rolling my eyes on the phone because I don't like my supervisor telling it. Oh yeah, I knocked. He's not there, right? And there's reasons why I do that. So I'm not really trying to intervene. And I'm not holding the courts responsible to support me in intervening. I'm letting the courts control the situation when they're not even in direct relation with the family. And so I'm not telling her. What I was telling her, Maricela, was, what are you going to do to protect? What, you need to keep them out. You need to keep them separate. If you don't do this and sign right here on this plan, the kids are going to come in. This has to stop. You're abusing the kids. No, nobody's going to want to work with me that way, right? So I literally have to tell her that I'm here to focus on this, right? Who's causing the harm? So these are the values that go with me. I'm reading the chat. This is cute. I like that, Justin. Make haste slowly. I love it. Did you guys see that in the chat? Yes. And Selena's like, how do you get those empowered to recognize this? Yeah, it's a total process, Selena. And we're going to slow way down, right? To first think about perpetrators as caregivers that matter, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So today, I want you first to know this, because I don't want you guys to think I have bias around gender for perpetration. My trainings have a strong focus on working with men, just because we kind of, we forget to include them. Let me just say it the nice way. We forget to include fathers, stepfathers, boyfriends, fiancés, right? And so father inclusion, we kind of do a poor job with that. More commonly than not, perpetrators are male. That doesn't mean women can't perpetrate violence. And that doesn't mean we have intimate partner violence in queer relationships. Stephen knows this, right? And, but the thing is sometimes we base intimate partner violence perpetration on who hit who, and that's not what it's based on. A perpetrator isn't based on who hit who. I hear people say all the time, Stephen, like, well, she is the perpetrator this time. Like, what do you mean? Well, she hit him and was arrested. Tell me who has the power, coercion, and control. Because the thing is that it can look like mom's the perpetrator because she's got these behaviors, right? Like she might be physically violent, verbally, like she might be doing some things, right? That looks like that. But what I try and figure out is, now, is she acting that way in an attempt to control her partner? Or is that person's behavior in a response to the partner? Okay, so those are like kind of like to simplify it, right? Is we're going to unpack that and how to unpack it. But I first need to really be clear that it's just that working with, no one taught me, Stephen, how to interview a man, let alone a violent man. Does that make sense? And so, this has a strong focus on men. Okay, so, but that doesn't mean, okay, you guys get what I'm saying. So the definition needs to be really clear. So law enforcement has a different definition for intimate partner violence, right? And this is in the context of child protection, right? And so when you guys look at this, like, we really have to remember the definition, because when we're assessing or working with families, we forget certain pieces of this, and it impacts the work we're trying to accomplish with them. So what stands out to you guys about this definition that you're like, oh my gosh, I got to remember that, and why? What stands out? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
I noticed how it recognizes that abuse happens after the relationship ends.
Yeah. So what's really like popping out to Kim is the pattern of behavior may continue after the end of the relationship or when the couple no longer lives together. So here's the tattoo. Ready? Kim, separation doesn't automatically equal safety. Separation doesn't equal safety. We're constantly operating on a prescription. I call it a prescription because I used to go in and sell myself and write the prescription. That's how I'd see it. I'd write a prescription for you need to separate, right? There was 3 things. Who can guess the 3 things on my prescription for safety? I'm with the survivor and I'm prescribing 3 things to them that they need to do in order for things to get safe.
No contact.
That's right.
Order.
Oh, that's right, Kim. So Justin says no contact. That means keep him out. Let's get real specific, Justin, because we expect a survivor to stop his violence and keep him out. Man, I can't even control my cat here, my dog. My dog keeps eating bees. She's stung every single day. Like I have no control, right, over this or that. Like, isn't it interesting, Justin, that everybody expects the survivor to stop his violence and keep him out, but nobody else wants to do anything about it? It's really interesting. I had a Scooby-Doo moment on this, right? And my moment was, oh my gosh, she can't. Like, yeah, like nobody can, okay? What kills me, Justin, and Justin, if you're ever in one of these CFTs with child welfare, I want you to speak up. If the whole entire room is focusing on whether she can stay away or keep him out and not return, go ahead and raise your hand and just say like this, Justin, she can't. So what are we going to do about it? Because no reasonable person would be able to do all of that. Okay, the other one is restraining order. And a lot of times we prescribe call police, which is totally crazy to me now. Like I literally see people like the survivor said, I don't want to call the police, Justin, because they're just going to cause more problems. She also said, I don't want to get the restraining order, Justin, because it's going to make him more mad. I saw the safety plan. What do you think was on it, Justin?
Restraining order and call the police.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like, and we don't understand why they don't work. It's like, how about let's ask what more mad looked like, and what is the police going to do and have done in the past, right? Because we know this to be true, right? Oh my goodness, there's so much I want to share. So yeah, the other thing is custody, right? We prescribe, so we basically we kind of think separation equals safety. So I've seen perpetrator behavior, Kim, continue from a different country. Like he doesn't have to do his behavior just under the roof he sleeps on. It's like from Canada to California, Massachusetts, like even just the neighborhood, like a state away, right? They're continuing to perpetrate their behavior. And what's interesting, Kim, is sometimes we see it as custody battles, right? And we might not like respond, but the thing is, it's just if there's a history or pattern to intimate partner violence, it's just like continued behavior, right? When the couple no longer lives together. You guys, it also focuses on the perpetrator here, this definition, and it doesn't say survivor's failure to protect. It says, it's the perpetrator's actions and behaviors, right? This is huge. Now, what about this power, coercion, control thing? What do you guys think about that? Like, what do we have to remember, around power, coercion, and control?
I would say that's where the bulk of the actual violence is.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Deborah. I feel like I know you, Deborah. Have we worked together before?
I don't think so.
Oh,
but
yeah,
that'd be great for the future.
That totally would be great. Yeah, like, it's this coercion and control piece, and the actions and behaviors directly involve target the children and the family, right? And so I had this gentleman like say to me once like this, totally creepy, but I'm not hitting her. And I was like, oh my goodness. He's like, but she won't behave. Like, whoa, right? Like, so there were so many other things that he was doing. Deborah had massive impact on her ability to parent protect, right? And child and family. Now, does it say that it has to be physical then? No, it doesn't, right? And so we have to shift it. Does it say the kids have to be there? It doesn't say the kids have to be present. What if a lot of this happens and the children aren't there, but then when they come home from school, mom has two black eyes? I mean, and they're sleeping. That one is just, they're not sleeping. Okay. And even if they're sleeping next door or they're just a baby, we discussed that in my series too, is trauma impact to infants and how serious that is. Okay. But Deborah, the key piece here I want everyone to laser in on is coercion control. And the reason why is it can often be just couples fighting. You know what I'm talking about. Couples fight, right? Stuff happens, right? There's couples that fight. There's situations that happen. People drink too much. People get pregnant. They didn't expect a baby. Someone lost a job. There's a massive pandemic, right? You don't have food. Couples fight, right? And so we really need to sort that out. Because if we don't sort out, you guys, when families come to us for help, whether it's couples fighting or intimate partner violence, it has a negative impact on what we're trying to achieve, right? Because we serve them differently. We can't just serve everybody who gets in a physical altercation with intimate partner violence services, right? Because that's not the underlying need. And sometimes that's really difficult to sort out when people experience substance abuse and mental health, right? Challenges, right? And so the tools are going to help sort it out. Jenny, you got a question?
Well, I was just going to add in terms of like what we see a lot that our survivors struggle with and our service providers is when it comes to the co-parenting, right? Like sometimes it's through the app, right? It's like those messaging apps, right? So that,
yeah,
right, like everything has to go through the courts, whatever, all communication has to be documented. And right, like it's every time a message comes through that app, it's causing a reaction for the non-caregiver, right? And it's not even like if you were to look at, if you were to print out the words, right, to an outsider objectively, there'd be nothing threatening in the message. The dynamic is there so that it's also, right, like it really can be subversive.
And that is stuff that I would totally want to know as a child welfare worker, just, Jenny, because that's your professional lens that I need from you, right? Because I need to communicate just how intense the impact is of that trauma, right, to the courts, right? And also I have to be sensitive to working with her, right, around that. Thank you for sharing that. And also see, did you have something, Kim? Okay. Becky's writing in the chat around non-offending partner's emotional ambivalence about perpetrator without moralizing about the non-offending partner, right? Their mixed feelings towards the offender pose a risk. Yeah, like when we start talking about, I'm assuming like Becky, you're talking a little bit about too here. The first thing comes to mind for me is like a generational intimate partner violence, or just like the pattern, right, of partners in abuse that, that survivor has experienced. Right. And also just in general, they want them, right? They have love for them, right, Becky? And they want them to be a parent, right? Am I kind of correct on where you're going?
Yeah, kind of like that. I was thinking of a situation wherein the non-offending parent, their ambivalence really might take the form of preferring that the child were living elsewhere, but they can technically, logistically, implement the safety plan for the child, but their emotional ambivalence is that's a risk for the child.
Yeah. And that's where we need you, Becky. Like child welfare workers, we really need to kind of know those things, and sharing information is such a barrier between us too, and so we got to take a deeper dive look too on how we can share information, right? And also keep confidentiality. It's a thin line. So I want to talk a little bit about system manipulation. And the reason is because I don't want us to get manipulated anymore. Like, you guys, like, they manipulate all of us. You know, they're manipulating family court, criminal court, you know, DV resources, family justice center. They manipulate us. Perpetrators manipulate relatives, friends, and child welfare. You know, in my experience, I had this one perpetrator. Okay, it did not end well at all. It was fatal. And it was the most horrific case I've ever been assigned. And, you know, before before this happened, he was manipulating every system on the screen. And he continued to manipulate us after he murdered her and was incarcerated. And I'm trying to protect his children with the trauma they're suffering. They stopped speaking. They stopped speaking, the 8-year-old twins. Okay. And this gentleman, he manipulated family. He baited the survivor, you guys. He baited the survivor. That's how I saw it, because that was what happened. He went to her apartment and he baited her to the point where he drove her into a physical altercation. And when he got scratched, he called the police. The police came, they arrested her. He took the police report. He went and got a restraining order. He then went to family court and got more custody, access to the kids. This is how it happens. This is the ripple effect. He started using them even more as pawns and spies. He uses them as pawns and spies. And then what he did was he went to the Family Justice Center and he signed up for services as a victim. So when my mom went down there, she was turned away from the Family Justice Center because she was listed as a perpetrator. She's not a perpetrator. We're all getting manipulated. How do we solve this problem, right? And then what he did is he manipulated a child welfare worker. He started putting referrals in that she's having sex with her boyfriend in the house. None of this is true. And he's causing more stress. He's causing the children, right, to be impacted. He would take the children to her work and question them in the car and watch her through the windows of Popeye in the parking lot, questioning the children. After everything happened and we were in court, he started to try to manipulate the judge and demand educational rights over his children. So he's still trying to manipulate the systems. So I never recognized this, you guys. So if I didn't recognize it and I'm getting manipulated, then I'm certainly not doing anything about it to intervene. So it's like, what can you guys do? If you guys know or suspect perpetrator manipulation of system, how are you guys going to intervene? What do you currently do? What do we need to do better at? Right? You know what I started doing is I'd go down to family court. I don't care if I have 30 cases, it's a very serious case. And I'm going to go down to family court. So there's no slips in the crack on information. And I'm going to be right there with the survivor so they can't manipulate the system. I'm going to pull the officer aside. And this takes some skill because people are afraid to talk to officers. I'm going to have skillful use of my authority. And I'm going to talk with the officer about how he's re-victimizing my victim, is what I started to do, and explain the perpetrator manipulation. Right? What do you guys do? I'd love for you to type in the chat when you see perpetrator manipulation, what do you do about it? Ooh, I love that, Suzanne. Prepare the victim, the survivor, for the perpetrator's conduct. I love it. Like start preparing and going over things that are common, right? I love it, Susan.
I let them know, right? Especially if the perpetrator has just been arrested and they're in custody, you know, and if they're struggling with addiction, then I let them know, right? He or she, they're in custody right now. And there's a variety of things going on with them. They're jonesing for another hit. They want access to, you know, eat pizza or whatever it is, again, whenever, and do what they want. And so their feet are to the fire right now. And so you need to be prepared for that honeymoon cycle to start up. Baby, I love you. Baby, you're the reason my heart beats. You're everything to me. I love you. Please don't do this to us. You just need to get me out of here, baby. Tell me you want to drop charges. Tell me you made it up. And then I let him know, you know, be prepared now that we've gotten a criminal protective order. You need to understand, you know, it doesn't say no a-hole contact. It says no contact.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's going to start out as, baby, I just want to call to tell you happy birthday.
Yeah.
And then I says, and you're going to be made to feel like you're a jerk for calling
Yeah.
the police to say that he wished you happy birthday or happy anniversary. But, you know, I said, it's a small child. It's like, he's like a small child that's pressing the line. If I go over this a little bit, and then if I can manipulate. And so we prepare him for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I try to do is I try to help the victim look at the perpetrator through a different lens, as though sometimes they're a small child that's being told in the grocery store they can't have a package of M&Ms for dinner.
Oh my gosh.
So they throw themselves, right? The child throws themselves in the middle of the floor and creates a tantrum and just tries to paralyze you so that you'll just give in, you'll just acquiesce and give the M&Ms just so your life can go on.
Yeah.
But it's unacceptable for an adult to throw themselves on the floor and scream. So they're basically having an adult temper tantrum. And I try to shift the lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it won't be as impactful and traumatizing for the victim.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then just like the impact that has on her, you know, because all of that behavior impacts her. Right. And we're going to talk about that. Anyone else? Thank you for sharing. Want to share?
Deborah. What was just described is very likely part of the coercion, control, and psychological violence that the partner has been and children have been experiencing for a long time. So it's very difficult to extricate yourself from that. Never mind the temper tantrum in the supermarket metaphor, which is hard enough. But how do you help actually counter that with someone who's likely been experiencing this for years? That's at the heart of the violence.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we definitely are going to talk about, you know, the responses that we can help them work, right? To like team on responses on specific behaviors like that, right? The calling and the I love you and all of that. And I had a gentleman who's calling from the jail like 6 times, 7 times, 8 times a day, telling her, you know, I'm sorry, I love you, all of this, even though he knew there was a restraining order, he knew he was supposed to call her. He's like doing it in jail, even though he's being recorded too. He knows it, he doesn't care, right? And so, you know, making threats. If you don't let me talk to the kids, I'm gonna make your life a living hell when I get out of here. And she's put in a very vulnerable position, right? Where do I let him talk to the kids or do I deal with living hell when he gets out of here? Let me let him talk to the kids. And that's when, instead of me criticizing her, Deborah, that's when I come out and say, wow, it sounds like that's the best choice you made in the moment. Can you tell me more about that? Because I have to affirm and validate what they do to be protective. Okay, guys, they're protecting all day, right? And so we're going to help with responses. So this slide's going to blow your mind, and I'm going to unpack love, Susan, because I think it's really important, right? I'm not against the power and control wheel. I just prefer the tool that I created. And the only reason why is because we focus more on impact, right? On the tool that I'm going to show you. And the love honeymoon period thing, I tend to get confused on that, thinking that it might be a good, we want more of that, right? And a lot of workers in child, well, we want more. No, that's power, that's manipulation and control too. Like there's no like getting more of the love, you know, part that you're talking about, Susan, you know, the honeymoon, whatever that means. That's actually really, really deep in coercion control. I mean, that's like, right, more harm there, right? But let me talk about, so this slide is going to show you the shift, right? And so I'm going to spend a little time on this. So there's some traditional, we have to unpack words we choose to use. Because look, the things that we say matter. So here's the tattoo. Ready? Words matter. Okay. So I got to slow down. There are some things that we say traditionally to describe survivors' behaviors, perpetrators' behaviors, just the overall intimate partner violence. One of them is she's failing to protect. Okay. Another one that we hear often is she has a bad picker. We want to send her to you guys, Susan, so you can help her, right? Pick better people. She has to learn how to have healthy relationships and pick better people so she doesn't fall into another relationship like this. And that's actually perpetrators pick survivors. Like She doesn't go out to try and pick them. They pick her, right? She might have some adverse childhood experiences. She might have some trauma that makes her more vulnerable, but she's not going out to pick them. Okay. And that's not what we need her to be working on. And so we have to move away from that. Okay. And we have to really look at the fact that any of those previous relationships, so like say Susan, she's had 3 previous relationships that were violent. Okay. I would like us to focus more on what each of those people did, that all their behavior, all their actions, all their behaviors that was harmful to her, to the children, her ability to protect the children, and the ability for her to parent and the household to function, not on the fact that she picked them. I like us to focus a lot more on what they're doing, right? And how we can help respond to that, right? To improve child safety, right? And so there's some other things, there's a lot of other things. You guys can type it in the chat or you could feel free to unmute yourself, but there's a lot of things, harmful things we say and write to describe actions and behaviors.
Family Resource Center, which is placed in order. However, we need assistance on how can I get staff to.
Oh, Kim, can you mute yourself? I'll try to mute Kim. Or who is it? I'm not sure. We gotta mute somebody. Oh, I don't know who it is. Hey, Allison, since you're the MVP in the room so far with 2 candies. Yep, I'm coming at you. This is easy because, you know, maybe some things that you've said before, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So it's like, can you think of things that you've heard maybe other people say that you're like, that doesn't sound right? To
describe the survivor?
Sure, let's start with her. Yeah.
I mean, for the survivors we work, I think what you said about the broken picker, like, I laughed out loud because I remember hearing that in my practicum. I worked with mostly women on welfare in a CalWorks program, and they would even come in saying that because they'd heard it from their workers or something. Yeah, making bad choices. Celine just put that in there. I totally agree. But you keep saying this failure to protect, and I do think that's probably one of the most harmful things you can say to a parent who's trying to survive and keep her kids alive or their kids alive. And safer to throw that label out there or to say it in a very clinical, judgmental voice, I think is probably the most harmful thing. And I hear it all the time. And I've said it. Absolutely, I say it.
Oh my gosh, Zoom confessions. Thank you, Allison, because I was feeling like the only one in here that wasn't like, you know, confessing anything. What do you do different?
I think the past couple of years talking more about cultural humility and the damage that CWS can do to people of color in particular is really forcing us to slow down and have serious conversations before we report families, and bringing the survivors in. That's always been my approach, but even more now is let's talk with the survivor about what they're doing to stay safer. What would the fallout be if a worker came and knocked on your door? You know, what might happen? And can we come up with a plan and keep checking in before we get another system in place? It is not always easy. And I know that if we have a really hard case and all of us are feeling some type of way, it takes more of us to have the conversation to slow it all down, but that's what we're working on. That's what we're trying.
Well, I would hope so. What I really liked about what you said is what's going on with us and what's going on inside us. You know, I got to start looking at me, right? And then I have to look at what you just said about like together helping is there are things that we say to each other that we have to change. So I need us to not necessarily change the way we feel about things, but the way we think. Well, yeah. So we got to change the way we think, feel, what we say to the survivor, what we say to each other. Like I have to change what I say to you in the office. And then I have to change the way I write about her. Okay. Because then I start documenting, right? So there are 2, let me call you out. Let me call on somebody. Okay. There are 2 words. Celine, you got it. There are 2 words that we say to describe survivor behavior. One of them begins with an M as in Mary, and anybody can really answer. And the other one begins with a D as in dogs. And they're really harmful. And I used to use them all the time, and they kind of make me sick now. What do you think those words are? It's kind of a fill in the blank. How about that? She is in.
Not coming up with anything at the moment.
Denial. Oh, am I
That's
helping?
right. Yeah, you can help. Yeah, she's in denial because that's a huge one, Kim, right? Leticia, she is, and then it starts with an M, kind of like Mad Libs. She is.
Mistaken.
Begins with, it
Mental,
begins, it,
mentally ill? No, I don't know. Mistaken?
she might be, but that is not her fault. But it's like if she was talking to you, right? And she's like, oh, wasn't that bad? And
She's minimizing.
That's right. She sure is. Okay. Can you play with me a little bit, Leticia? Because I just need someone to like be with me through this exercise.
So I'm my name is pronounced, thank you, good effort, is Leticia. The Y is pronounced as an I.
Leticia. It's such a cool name. Such a cool name. Thanks for correcting me. People call me Luke all the time, and I'm like, Skywalker, I'll go with it. I'll be like, yeah. Because like in my mind, I'm like, Luke Skywalker, Leticia. Can you and I unmute yourself? Cool.
Yeah, we can vibe. We can dialogue. Yes.
Okay, cool. And then there's something else, you guys. Everybody with me? Thumbs up. People are not on their screen. I don't even know if you're here. I would love to see your face. I never got to meet Leticia Flowers. That is cool. What were we talking about? Oh, denial and minimize, right? Like we use that, right, to describe her behavior, her actions or inactions or things she says, right? So there's this other thing about love, Suzanne. I hope you're with me. So I would use these words, and then also she love him and roll my eyes. She ain't never gonna leave. I would do that. Okay. Have you guys ever done that? Okay. So what I've realized, okay, Leticia, do you love people that do stuff to hurt you, that you can't stop them? They keep doing the same thing. Have you ever loved somebody or continue to love them?
A nonprofit.
No, like personally. You know what I mean? Like where you still showed up to virtual Christmas, you know, or you're like, yeah, you still, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like, you know, and Steven, I feel so safe with you in the room, it's like they persecute me or they don't want to use my name or my pronouns, and people are drinking and they don't accept my family and, you know, all this stuff, right? But I still go, I still love them, right? You know, even though they do all that stuff to hurt me. Okay. Now.
There's a great comment
Go
in
ahead.
the chat. There's a great comment in the chat about do toddlers count? And I think that's a really good point. Just, yeah, people's children.
They absolutely count. Oh my gosh, my puppy, she keeps breaking the screens and she's out of control. So that's my toddler. So yes.
Nursing a biting child.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Totally. You guys are with me, right? And you still love, like they do stuff like, right? Okay. So Leticia, if somebody needs a mute. So if me and my wife are driving up to Christmas, even though all of this stuff happens, what do you think we might be doing in the car on the way there?
Singing, fighting, arguing.
No, knowing that we're going to face,
Trying to come up with a plan for how to manage the hostility or whatever you're going to deal with.
That's right, Celine. We're like, you know, we're coming up with the safety plan and we're talking about code words. And did you guys ever see Four Christmases? If you have not seen that movie, you have to watch it. It's hilarious. So yeah, we're like preparing. Thank you. We're discussing safety plan, code words, you know, what we're going to do. Sometimes we take the kids, sometimes we don't because it's not safe. You know, like we're doing all of that. Okay. Now, what I want to tie into is that I used to say to her, Leticia, is that's not love. You really need to like separate from him, blah, 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 blah. Right. But when I do that and I roll my eyes in the office and I tell Celine she ain't never going to leave and this client this and she loves him and blah, blah, what I'm doing is I'm using her love for him as a tool to measure child safety. And love is not the tool to measure child safety. It's just not. But how can I utilize the fact that she shared with me that she loves him and wants him to be a dad and wants him to be a partner, right? To engage and partner. So this is what I say instead now. I get that you love him, have love for him, and want him to be a dad because he is part of the family. And that's not the problem here. The problem isn't your love for him and that wanting him to be a dad and a partner child. The problem is his behavior is not safe right now. And what I'd like to do is work with him and help him with tools, change his behavior so he'd be that safer partner, that safer parent. Okay, so what I do there is she's more likely to want to engage, okay, if I can validate that. Second thing, okay, let's go back to minimizing and denial. So, Leticia, if you ask me how Christmas goes for me, and I tell you this, it's awesome. Everybody uses my pronouns. My family totally, nobody drinks. Everyone was wearing masks. They like respect everybody's space. You know, they totally accept my children and my wife. Like everything was great. But Leticia, you know that ain't true. But I don't tell you that. Does that mean I'm in denial or minimizing because I didn't tell you?
No.
Then why do we say that? I am very aware of what they do to me. You know what, Leticia? I just don't want to tell you. Does that make sense? I just don't want to tell you. And there's lots of reasons why I don't want to tell you, right? In whatever position we are, serving families experiencing intimate partner violence. And so what I had to tell myself was the survivor is very aware of what he's doing to her. The survivor knows what she's experiencing, the impact it's having, and I have to, right, tell her that I'm sure you're doing a whole hell of a lot to protect. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, because I really want to inquire and align. I want to align with the survivor. I want to affirm and validate. And I want to turn up the curiosity and ask what they're already doing. I might even say that it's probably really scary to talk about this, right? I might be scaring you, right? And so the denial and minimize got to go. That's not what it is, right? If I can get to a place where they feel safe enough to partner, then they'll be able to talk with me about all those things. I got people in my life with Tysa that I have not told any of these things to, and I've known them 20 years. And we expect survivors to tell us everything right away. I mean, it's just like, right? I mean, and then the perpetrator's there, and like, what is he gonna do if he hears me or finds out what I told you? And, you know, all of this is, you know, it's like gymnastics, you know, like, so I have to know, you guys, that survivors already have safety plans. They're already doing a whole hell of a lot to protect. I can ask for that, hope they'd want to share that, right? And so that we could partner to build on that, right? And so all of these little labels really jeopardize, okay, as I see it, is it jeopardizes my ability to build that partnership. Let's see, look at the chat. What do you think, Leticia? Look.
Absolutely. You know, I walk in the light of having been, you know, a survivor, turned advocate. And so a lot of that, what you were saying about the minimization and the denial, it will cause you to become defensive or shut down because there's beliefs behind the behavior. We're looking at the behavior of the survivor. We're also looking at the behavior of the perpetrator. But when it comes to the survivor and partnering with her, she has to know that she's valued. You know, she has to know that you see her as a logical, you know, rational, reasonable person. Everyone wants to have a sense of belonging and acceptance, right? And so her identity about herself, when people say that she's minimizing or she's in denial, it kind of bleeds or blurs that,
Yes.
you know, with the acts or the behaviors of the perpetrator, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I can't really partner with or be honest or transparent with someone
right.
who sees me
That's right.
in his light,
Yes.
you know, and doesn't see me in my own light, right?
Yes.
And love, you know, it says what love has to do with it, separating her love for him and his behaviors is a good thing to do, because I can say to someone, you love him and you want your children to be, you want to be saved.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
Not you love him or, but you love him and, right?
Yes.
And so it's honoring who she is, her decision-making, you know, abilities. And it's and making her feel like a human person having a human experience instead of some weird or something else like that.
And yeah, and it's so important. Thank you for saying that. It's so, it is beautifully said. You're getting that in the chat. This is why we have to slow down. Leticia, if I don't slow down, there's no way. There is no way. I might as well not even try, because, okay, old luck, here comes my confession. It literally makes me sick to think about it, but I stepped into perpetrator shoes. Leticia says she didn't have one anymore, she had two.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not okay, and I have to shift. and thank God I shifted. So that's why I want to freely give to everybody, is what was given to me, you know, because I've had the experience, right, that you're talking about, where I can share that, right, and partner. So
let me say this. There are so many opportunities for people within the system and people within public serving organizations to step in the role of the perpetrator, and they have no idea that they are doing that.
Yes.
So I've had school administrators, I had people on TDMs, I've had wraparound teams that step into the role of the perpetrator. And this mother or parent, caregiver, is all alone once again, you know, and really don't have a lot of power at all, you know.
That's right.
And so when that happens, you look at this dynamic of power and control, of manipulation and control that exists within the educational system, you know. And then you have someone who doesn't have a lot of support, cannot be transparent, because everything that she does is being used against her in the IEP or the TDM or the CFT, like all of these systems become perpetrators.
All of it
manipulate her behavior, and she's not. I mean, it's only so much that one person can take. So, you know, showing up. I remember showing up for a meeting with a wraparound team, TDM, with all of these professionals, and I was there for the mom that hadn't met her yet, and I noticed, one, that she was never looking up. I could hear her voice, but she never made eye contact with anybody in the room. And then I also was reading the collateral for the child, the identified client, and I realized there were strengths there that weren't being talked about.
Oh, of course.
But there are some things that dehumanize families.
Yes.
And you're not even paying attention to what is behind this behavior. And it was a thing about hygiene for the kid. Fast forward, ended up going to the house, and they said that the mom had low cognition. These are all professionals, MFTs,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Whatever.
No, I know.
BCBAs, all the folks with the letters that have the power of the pen were in this meeting. And then we had an opportunity to go to the house after we talked about hygiene for a long time. It was just crazy.
God,
so demeaning and dehumanizing. Get to the house, and immediately when they opened that door, tears start to I feel them welling up. The house is immaculate, and it's not the type of cleaning or organizing or decorating that you can do on a whim because social workers and stuff are coming from your house. No, this is something else. Then I note that the mother is legally blind. So what are all those documents and things that we're reading, right? Then there's a knock
Oh.
at the door from somebody from the community who wants this kid to modify an engine. So he's the neighborhood mechanic. And they have him doing as a, what do you call it, sequential task, putting a vacuum cleaner bag into a vacuum. Now, I thought, because I'm from the East Coast and the South, I've only been in California for maybe a decade now, but I thought she was from the Caribbean. But as we continue to talk, and I'm listening.
Yeah, you're listening.
Her jaw had been rewired 2 different times. One side, then the other side, because her jaw had been broken in 2 different occasions. So that, aligning bone, teeth, tongue, changed the way that she spoke. So there was nothing about her cognition that was low, but these people sat in a place of judgment about this mom.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
And they were able to put this information into a report.
Of course.
And then the thing about the hygiene, when she began to tell her story, and she said, I realized this child, he was now 15. When the violence would break out, he was the youngest child at the time. He was the baby. She would put him under the bed, or she would put him in a closet.
Wow.
Trying to protect this child.
Yes.
And then I realized that the closet and under the bed was a place that you can hear, but you cannot see. Guess what the shower is when you shut that shower curtain? It's a place that you can hear, but you cannot see. He didn't have a problem with bathing. He had a aversion to being in spaces where he could hear and he could not see his mother.
So powerful.
So there was water on the, this whole notion. But they built a whole freaking plan around hygiene and missed that whole.
And I'm gonna pause you because this goes right into where I'm gonna go next with parenting standards. Okay, and you definitely hit the candy jackpot. Okay, like I just want to pause and appreciate your sharing and drawing from personal experiences, because I always enjoy it because I want to make sure I'm doing things right, and it's nice to hear, right, what you need, right? And so what I hear you also talking about is the parenting standards. Okay, so I'm going to give a visual right now, and anybody can tell me. So like in society, it's the kind of happens, right? Like what we expect of mothers and fathers. And I could totally go off to on career relationships and what people think like I should be doing as a parent, right? Versus my wife. But like we expect this of mothers and this of fathers, right? And so this is still really present, right? And so when we think of parenting roles and responsibilities, can you guys see me? I'm like, what do we expect of moms? One person can unmute and literally shout everything out.
I think we expect them to be perfect.
Right. Perfect to me means this, okay? And this is what I did. Parenting, shopping, discipline, school, homework, hygiene, shopping for the food, cleaning the house, going to work, driving, transportation, medical, medicine, school, everything. So we expect moms to do everything right. Oh, and by the way, and this is really important, stay off drugs, out of jail, and don't be crazy. So there's all of that as well. Okay. No, for real. Right. And then what we expect the fathers is just kind of like, stay out of jail, off drugs, and maybe have a job. But the problem is we have to bring them to equal parenting standards, right? Because they're both parents and they both have parenting responsibilities. And his job may not be to transport the kids to school, but that does not give him permission to steal the spark plugs out of the car so she cannot take the kids to school. His job may not be, right, to wash the clothes, but he can't unplug the washer and dryer. I had a guy do this, unplug the washer and dryer and take it with him, haul it out of the house, and then put a referral on that there's no clean clothes. Okay. It is his job as a parent to make sure his kids have clean clothes. He cannot dump all the food out on the floor, the milk, the food. This is what he did. If I'm not going to be here, nobody's going to eat. And so he smashed everything and he left. No, you're responsible for food. You're responsible for medical. Had this lady tell a worker, I couldn't take my baby to the cardiologist, right? Because he stole the medical cards and the car, so I couldn't take her. And I said to the worker, oh my God, you must have like made her feel safe to talk to you about everything he was doing to her. What did you say? She said, I told her she needs to take the bus. I'm like, huh? What about the dad? Oh yeah. I'm like, no. Did you go talk to him about how he's responsible to give her the car, make sure child gets to the doctor, right? We got to bring the equal parenting standards, right? And we have to tell her this. Like if I tell the survivor, right? Like, no, he's making that choice as a dad. Like he's causing that harm, not you. And I'm going to hold him responsible because like I'm going to go meet with him. So what do you need me to say to him? How can I protect you when I go talk to him? Right? So all these things need to be explored and really ask what his role is as a dad, what he's doing to be harmful, what do you need him to do differently? Let's touch slowly, I'm a little behind, on the restraining orders. It's not our place to choose if someone gets an order. You know, this was huge for me, you guys. I put so many people in danger, you guys, by prescribing a restraining order and separation. Like, I still think about some of my past relationships with survivors and like, oh my God, did they make it? Because it is the most dangerous time to separate and get an order. I didn't know these things. I didn't know that it causes the perpetrator to have nothing to lose. I'm losing control. And they're willing to do whatever, right, to gain that control. And, you know, we know this has been fatal. All I'm asking is for us to explore restraining orders and ask questions. So in my series, we discuss in specifics what type of questions we should be asking survivors around restraining orders. I literally have workers telling me that the court is ordering, the juvenile court, you must get a restraining order. That is our responsibility to explain why it's dangerous. What you're gonna do instead with the survivor, because the restraining order, she's afraid he might kill her if she gets it. It's going to set him off where he's going to go from Ohio to San Diego. This is what a lady told me, and it's really going to make him follow through with his threats. So I decided against it. And so I praised her for making that decision, and she started to cry because everybody else says that she's not handling him correctly. And what she's doing is a whole hell of a lot to protect every day, all day long. So I need to explore restraining orders. I need to, if I'm going to help find shelter, I used to drop people off. Allison, I'm going to confess to you because you were right in front of me, girl. I would drop her off at the shelter, expect her to do all this when I have her somewhere completely away from her house, across town, without a car, without access to the money, and expect her to get it all done. And he's up here in the apartment, right? He's up here with the car. He's up here with the money. Right. And then I'm wondering why she went back to him when he was like, I can help you with that. I'll transport. Like Scooby-Doo moment, like it's not okay. Right. And a lot of mine was I wasn't equipped to deal with him. I need training, you know, and I need to hold him to equal parenting standards. It's not just her job to do all of that. And I also have to factor in culture. I've got to get to know and turn up the curiosity dial around culture, family roles, parenting roles, cultural values and beliefs, right? And how that impacts her and child safety, how that impacts him, right? So these are some important tools. Now, this is the thing, is I can't do that if I do not see him as a parent that matters. And I'm going to tell you some funny things because it helps me to laugh looking back. But hey, Alison, you know when like fathers are walking down the street with the baby and the baby bouncer thing? You know what I'm talking about? Those baby things where you can like, you know what I'm talking about?
Are you going to say, Luck, what I think you're going to say? Which
what?
is, everyone says, oh my God, you're such a great dad.
How did you know that? You've been in my class before?
I have a 1-year-old, so I've been living with this reality for the last year.
Really? Wait, who's talking right now?
It's Jenny.
Okay, Jenny, so let me ask you, if two ladies walking down the street and the man's walking on the other side of the street, ooh, what a good dad. Okay, what if you were walking with the baby? Do you think they would be saying, looking at you, ooh, what a good mom?
No,
Jenny?
honestly, if he doesn't have shoes on half the time, it's, oh, how come your baby doesn't have shoes on?
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say that because it's more of a like criticism, like you don't have a jacket on or like whatever, right? It's so true, but it's funny, but it's serious. We got to get serious about it because it's not okay. Okay. And he's not a good dad just because he shows up to every visit. And if you're in the room working with perpetrators of violence and he says, and he's going to group and he's telling you, oh yeah, I totally yelled and cursed at my wife. It's not okay. My kids were scared. I hit her. I don't want my kids. Like he's up in group every day. And you report back to the social worker in court. It's like he's doing great, you know, and all those things. And it's really not. He really strangles her, you guys. Like he strangles her and he stalks her, you know, and like he's not working on that because you don't know what he does. Right. You know, and so I have a funny story, but I was in the airport. God, I wish I had you guys all day. And there's a lady in front of me, Jenny. She's 8 months pregnant. Okay, I was hangry. I got back from a long trip, hangry. And you know I'm hangry when you stop in the airport and get food at your own town. That's how hungry I was. She's in front of me. She's 8 months pregnant. She had a baby in the stroller, but was strong enough though and old enough to knock the chairs over and push the salt off the table. And then there's a toddler in her hand that keeps running away and she's trying to order. And I'm behind. And then she did one of these, Jenny, before she ran and left her luggage and her baby to go retrieve her toddler. Okay. And I'm like, dang, she's amazing. Over here, there's a dad feeding a baby and there's everybody eating around the tables. And everybody who's eating at the tables is staring at the dad feeding the baby. Ooh. And nobody is seeing this mom and what she's doing. Right? So what do we expect of fathers? We need them to demonstrate safe parenting behaviors, safe, supportive partner behaviors. Demonstrate it, not just showing up to McDonald's, not just showing up to the visit. They're not just babysitters. You know, I don't know if you guys saw Barack and Michelle Obama. This is my other story. Barack says on national television, oh, I'm always available to babysit if Michelle wants to go out. That's what he said on TV. I don't know if anybody saw this.
You
And Michelle
babysit
looked, yes,
your own children?
Barack Obama, the president.
That's not babysitting.
Yeah, so Michelle called him out on TV.
Yeah.
Barack, it's not babysitting with your own kid. So this is a really huge, even the president says this, like, why does he say that? So when we don't try and locate the perpetrator who's a dad, when we do not try and engage them as parents that matter, what happens is reinforce this, first of all, okay? And the second thing is some fathers see themselves here, are here, want to be included, and we don't, and they know we're not going to include them, so they run. So there's all these things, you know, at play. Let me move to the next. So problem saturated practice. We went through this. This is problem saturated practice. You know, naive practice. This is naive practice at its best. I lived in naive practice. Naive all day. Oh, like it's over. The kids were asleep. He's not involved. You know, all of this. None of this is true. It's very naive. Right? So I'm going to show you the tools. We need a rigorous balanced assessment. Okay. A rigorous balanced assessment is I have to partner with the survivor to document all of the harm and danger by the perpetrator, right? And their patterns of behavior, coercion, control. I have to immediately ask what she was able to do in the moment to be protective, the impact that had on her and child safety, and who helped her is the most important place. Who? I'm always looking for people. I need people, right? She can't do it alone. Most survivors think that they have to do everything alone. No, it's our responsibility as a community, you guys, right? Because the perpetrators are a danger to the community, right? And we have to, if we can get the harm, get the danger, get what's already present as protective acts, we can build future safety on what she's already doing. So if the case comes in for physical abuse, if the case comes in for substance abuse, right, and I notice signs of possible intimate partner violence, I have to explore that, because perpetrator behavior, here's the tattoo, intersects with substance abuse and mental health. Perpetrator behavior intersects with substance and mental health. I remember going and him saying, look, she's batshit crazy. And if she would just stop being depressed in the room and drinking all the time, you guys wouldn't have to come out here. And this is what happens. All my attention now is going on her. Right? And what I'm not considering is that his actions and behaviors are either causing, exacerbating, or interfering with her substance abuse and mental health, most likely. And so I need to explore that and dig deeper. How do I do that? I use the tool. So this is what I call the perpetrator behavior impact tool. I was told there's no math in this job, which is why I signed up. And then I created this formula. PBI, P plus B plus I. Perpetrator behavior impacts 3 buckets, you guys. 3 buckets. Child survivor, the child's development, education, social, behavior, emotional, the child physically, the survivor physically, the survivor's health. Have you guys ever had survivors tell you that the perpetrator literally caused a health concern? Like they literally have high blood pressure now because of the perpetrator's actions and behaviors, right? That they literally have a speech problem now, the child, they can't speak because they're so traumatized. I want to know everything the perpetrator did an impact. We got to stop speaking in jargon. They were emotionally abused. No. Tell me behaviorally specific what the perpetrator does and the impact it has on how the household functions, you guys. This was huge for me. Oh yeah, he could be going to her work and talking to everybody who's going in and asking about her whereabouts and calling her so much that she's getting written up, and then she gets fired. And when she gets fired, then they can't pay the bills. And when they can't pay the bills, then they're homeless and have to move. And then when they have to move, they move schools and they move teachers. And there is no 504 plan because that got lost for the kid. And right. And I've had perpetrators literally take away all of the survivors' relationships. And then what happens is the relatives are like, she won't help us. She chooses him over the kids, blah, blah, blah. And they think that, but really, he's just taking them away. He goes back to jail. She's right back with her family. I've seen it so many times. I've seen survivors protecting their relatives, right? So we got to raise ourselves. I don't know if you guys raised your parents, but I raised mine. We got to raise ourselves. We got to raise each other, our colleagues. We got to raise law enforcement so they're not all contributing and becoming perpetrators. We got to raise the courts. We got to raise everybody up, right? Because everybody thinks that she's failing here, right? Non-offending caregiver. This bucket is important because we got to stop looking at a survivor as a failure to protect, which means a perpetrator. We got to stop assessing and working with her as if she's a perpetrator. She's not a perpetrator. She's a non-offending caregiver. And the problem is that perpetrators, they sometimes make it impossible for them to meet basic day-to-day needs, for their kids to go to the activities, for her to be able to parent. They take away her authority. Like I've had survivors tell me before that she walked in. I have an example. She walked into the room and was like, why didn't you take them to tennis lessons? They're supposed to go. Yeah, it's your job. And he says to her like this, because they don't fucking like it. They don't want to fucking go and they're not fucking going anymore. Then this is what happened. She said, my toddler in the back said, yeah, mom, we don't fucking like it. We don't want to fucking go, using the same words. It's like 6 years old, right? And we don't want to fucking go anymore. We're not going. It's so not okay. I've literally had survivors tell me, I never had anxiety before until now. He caused a mental health issue. People will say, Allison, look, she's batshit crazy. She jumps on the car and won't let him leave. She's contributing to all this. And I said, the answer should be this. Can you tell me what the perpetrator's actions and behaviors are? Well, he's taken the kids before for like weeks at a time and kept them from her. What do you think your theory might be as to why she won't let him leave with the kids?
That they're not going to come back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then people are like, she goes and gets him more alcohol, Luck. And I'm like, what were her thoughts around doing that night? Well, I didn't ask.
Well, it's
right?
a fawn response. Maybe he'll go to sleep. Maybe he'll be more relaxed if she gives him what he wants.
Maybe, but I won't know until because see, I automatically go to, she shouldn't do that. And so I really need to ask. And her response was this, because if I don't go get it, he's going to drive drunk with my daughter. And I don't want him to do that. And I know how many drinks to get in him, so he won't be violent. That's when I praise her. We talk about engagement. Engagement is, that's when I validate and affirm her choices. Is it safety long-term? No, but it needs to be acknowledged so that I can work with it. I've had people tell me that they literally caused a substance abuse problem. I had a lady tell me, he shoot me up with heroin to control me. I have to stay because I need heroin. I had another lady tell me he interfered with her sobriety by taking away the car. She couldn't go to AA meetings. He didn't want her to see a male sponsor, took away all her literature and books. Next thing you know, she relapsed. Or I didn't have an alcohol problem, Allison, but now I drink every day to cope. And so it is quite possible. We got to stop. It's a complicating factor, mental health and substances, but if we can uncover the origin, what's the origin of the substance use and mental health? And then let's talk about moments of sobriety, right? Tell me about it before, during, and after his behavior began. Tell me about your mental health recovery and who helped you. Tell me about what it's like when he's behaving this way, you have this relationship with him now. Tell me what happens, right? And so I gotta look in the chat. So the bottom line is, what helps me is this, and I'm going to show you a visual. I have to start thinking about how mental health, pretend this boat is mental health. This boat, the Pinta, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, is substance abuse. And this boat is hygiene and general neglect. Okay. It's quite possible that DV is the undercurrent to these issues. We have to consider that and explore it. Because Leticia, you know what I bet? She's already doing all that parenting. And if she's making little mistakes here and there, it ain't because she's a bad parent and needs hygiene school and parenting class. Tell me what the perpetrator does. Because he's responsible for hygiene too. And also, she's probably doing all of this. And the problem is, Leticia, is I don't stop to say, here it goes, you guys. I don't stop to say, dang, you're able to do all of this while he's keeping you up all night, questioning your loyalty, beating you up, putting you down, following you at work. You're able to do all this. That's amazing. That's amazing. And by the way, it's not all your responsibility, and it's not fair. Because if I can stop and do that, she's more likely to want a partner. So what I found is, if DV stops, let me ask you guys, if we can stop the perpetrator's actions and behavior, what do you think might happen to her mental health, substance abuse, physical abuse of the kids? What could happen? What is going to happen to these boats if this current isn't here? You guys see the screen, right? Okay, good.
They won't need to stay afloat.
Yeah, they aren't going to be rocking. They're just going to be like, I can start to heal. I can get my bipolar medication every day because he's not taking it from me. I don't have to use meth because I have my recovery program. It's powerful. I had someone leave the room the other day and was like, I gotta go, Luck. I'm like, where are you going? I gotta call my client and apologize because he was taking her medication and he was interfering with her sobriety, and she relapsing on meth. I gotta go talk to her about it. I handled it wrong. I got 7 cases open for couples fighting. I gotta go make that right. Right. So this is powerful stuff. So what I think of, so these are the 3 buckets. And it all centers around impact. Because look, you guys, we can't safety plan with a survivor or a perpetrator unless we clearly know PBI first. We have to know all of PBI first. And the balanced rigorous assessment is this. We have to know what the survivor's already doing, their behaviors to protect, putting them in the shower, under the bed. I loved it. I said, what's such good examples, right? And the impact it had on safety and who helped. If we can get both things, so this is called the SOPDV timeline tool. I created it because it was the most efficient way for me to gather all the information I need. So I use the PBI tool to drive my conversation, gather information, and then I use the timeline to get past and presently day-to-day behavior of the perpetrator. Everything they do all day, every day impact it has the 3 buckets. And then I ask everything that she's been doing and who's helping her. If I can get all of this, then I'll know what to do over here to plan for future safety. And let me ask you, Stephen, if there's nobody on this list, you're my like LGBTQ brother. You know, queer people, they have to make their families. I had to make mine. And if there's no people up here helping a survivor, and this has been happening every day, all day long for decades, what will we need to do over here? There's no people.
Build some support.
We have to. It's got to be number one on my CFT, my child and family team. And if I'm safety planning with a therapist, it's got to be aligned with what I'm doing with social services. You know, and it's like, we've got to build people. So I love this tool. I know we're running down on time, but I have to, do you guys want to see an example of this? Okay, this is so cool. So I was in San Francisco and the worker was struggling. She said, look, nobody thinks the mom's doing anything to be protective. This is the second time we've taken the kids for domestic violence, the father. This is a violent guy, by the way. Okay. And so they were like, we want to have you come in and map. We're going to have both of the attorneys for the kids there, the therapist for mom, all you therapists from survivors in here at the table. And I said, well, come ready with your balance assessment. Right. So this is what she brought. I'm going to show you guys. I know we're running down on time. Let's see. I'm going to find it. Okay. It was amazing. We did it across the entire board. I've done this in houses before. Can you guys see this? Okay. So you might not be able to read everything, but you get the gist. So I put the formulas down here so everybody knows what we're trying to gather, the formula. And so anything with an H and a D, that's the harm and danger the perpetrator caused. Anything up here with a PA, that's a protective act that a survivor took, or a PC, that's called a protective capacity by the survivor. And an ST is strengths, and an S means safety. And so when we did the map, this is everything mom did and the people who helped her in response to the perpetrator. And then we went and circled all the people. Now, I got to tell you guys this. In 2 days, they were going to have a CFT. And the only people at the CFT were going to be mom and grandma who had the kids, because they were considering terminating services and permanent placement with grandma. Parental rights are going to be terminated for mom. Dad's not involved, by the way, at all, because we didn't hold him responsible. And so look what she did. We circled. She went to the maternal uncles for help. They confronted him. She went to her landlord, her employer. Who goes to their employer and tells them everything this guy's doing? He was beating her up, breaking in her house, you guys. He was raping the kids and everything. Like, this is dangerous stuff. This is awful. She went to her coworkers for help, and they started doing things to help monitor whether he was going to come to work. She went to her neighbors for help. The landlord changed the locks. She went to her therapist. She went to her church pastor, right? Got them involved. She went every day to the after school program and begged them to let her kids in. You want to know why? So that they would be out of the house. She did all this. Guess what they ended up deciding to do before having the CFT? when they saw their map. Who's got it? They canceled it because they had to go get the uncles, the neighbor, the pastor, the coworkers, the boss. They had to go get everybody because it's not her responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility to intervene. And what they ended up doing is they got all these people, they built a solid safety plan, they started working the plan. Everyone had a specific role and responsibility to intervene with the perpetrator and also to help mom with all of this, right? And they ended up returning the kids to her, relocating somewhere completely new, and everybody's still involved, and it just worked out. And I got to tell you, therapists in here, so it's the last thing I'm going to say, is the best part of all is it took about a month. The therapist emailed me. It was a stream of conscience. You could tell she was crying when she wrote it. She said, "It rocked my world. I didn't realize I was shaming and blaming my client. I didn't realize, right, that I was having some countertransference. I didn't realize all the things she was doing to be protective. Man, it changed my life. Just the 2 hours at the mat." And she thanked me, and she said she was gonna go tell all her colleagues, and she did, and that she was overjoyed the way she could change the way she does business with a survivor. And it was a really nice email. And the reason why is I felt good for her, felt so good for her. And so, I know there's a lot more. This is short. I hope you guys enjoyed it today. I just would like to kind of field a few questions. And I'd like you to think about this. How about this? What are you already doing that you learned today in a short amount of time? We got like 4 modules, by the way. What do you want to do tomorrow to enhance your practice? And what do you want to show your supervisor? Well, what's maybe one thing your department needs or your entity? Like, what do you guys need more of? Then just think about it to yourself. Because you're already doing great work. One thing I had to change was I had to stop saying she's in denial. I just had to just eliminate it. Words matter. That's right, Blanca. Tattoo it. So just think to yourself. And then I just want to ask you guys a quick plus delta. What do you like about today? And what do you need more of? What does your organization need more of? Feel free to unmute yourselves. And then I'll give you my email.
I just want to say thank you for your energy. Luck, it's hard to sit through a 2-hour Zoom meeting sometimes, but you made this go by so fast. And I felt like I was in the room with you. So that's really hard to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for participating.
I have to second what Allison said. It's great energy, Luck. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Look, I was in a T for T with you some years ago when this this was being introduced in San Diego, and I just remember how much fun and how just so real. I think you were in your aha stage or something, but it was just so real. I've never been to a training like that before when you were present, and so when I saw that you were doing this and you were still at it, I was so excited. Just to be with you again. So thank you for still being out there doing the work as transparent and as authentic as you do it. And I hope you can keep on doing it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I would love to work. I just think community providers and just everybody, I'd love to just work with everybody, at some point. It's just amazing what you guys do. And I think the partnership needs to deepen with child welfare as well. I'd love to get 300 cops in the room. That would be a dream. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to put my email here So this is me. What Leticia is talking about is we did a T for T a long time ago when we first rolled it out. It didn't really work so well because it's so hard to make this shift, right? But I did do this work with Heather Meitner with Evident Change, and we've partnered before to kind of serve. You know, I'm going to be working with all of Arkansas. I'm going to train all of Arkansas. I'm training all of San Joaquin County, and really just trying to move through California. So if you guys are interested in the series, you know, or interested in any advanced training, here's my email and contact information. And then if you want to know more about the Safe and Together Institute, David Mandel has a lot of free resources, free trainings, free podcasts, free tools, and also, you know, I'm usually at a symposium every year, but I'm not going this year. But you could get some information there. So yeah, I'm really grateful you guys are here. I gotta let you guys go, but I'll hang out for a couple minutes if anyone has questions. So I'll just turn it back to Melissa.
Thank you, Luck. I just want to lift up all the comments in the chat that are saying mind blown. I also commented saying, I think we all just gained a new sleeve today and all the tattoos that you inked us with. And I just want to again reiterate all the thanks and appreciation that people are expressing. I was so excited to have you referred to us by one of our members, and I'm just happy to hear that this really resonated with people and it really left an impact on us. So thank you for sharing your expertise and time with us. It's been fantastic.
Thank you for all the comments in the chat. I'm just going through them now. Yeah, let me know if you guys need anything or you're interested in any of, you know, the advanced training or any questions.
Did I hear you say you're coming to San Joaquin?
So I'm currently contracting. I'm training all of child welfare in San Joaquin County right now. So I've worked with them. Yeah. So I already trained all of ER. Yeah. But the community providers, I'm not sure their plan, you know, on training. Some counties, they pay for training their community providers, right? So, you know, anybody who's working with survivors, perpetrators, therapists, right? You know, courts. I think San Francisco is bringing their people in. I'm not sure who's paying me through that, but I know that, you know, some counties can have the resources to pay for their community partners. Other counties, I think, have the community, ask the community partners to consider coming through some of my training series so that we all have a shared framework. Yeah.
Thanks, Luck. I appreciate it. Be well.
Absolutely. Huh? Be well. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, everybody.
Nice.
You guys have the tools in your packet too. You know, they're right there for you guys. I also included some questions in your packet, you know, that you could like use when you take away today, you know, to kind of ask or share with your staff. There's a lot of really good questions in your packet. I totally forgot to show you that.